Rain was hitting the windows hard. The table was dark wood, mahogany, and the woman pouring drinks. She knew 17 different ways to kill every single person in that room. The man at the head of the table, his name was Rin, had one job tonight. Take the port deal, $50 million sitting right there, just waiting for a handshake. All he had to do was say yes and walk away rich. But then his eyes found the woman trembling in the corner. The one Rin's enemy, kept drugged up and desperate. And that changed everything. 4 words came out of his mouth. I want her instead. What the other guy, a man named Marcus Vane, thought was some kind of joke. It turned into the beginning of a war, because the maid he handed over for nothing. She wasn't just a maid. She was Subject Zero, the ghost who never misses a shot, and she had 8 hours before her body completely shut down. Now let's go back and watch a $50 million deal fall apart. It starts with 3 words, I want her. The crystal bottle she was holding, it was the fancy kind. Expensive. She had memorized every single item in that mansion during her first week there. Every object. Every price, every possible weapon. Her hands moved smooth and steady as she poured. But underneath that stiff black uniform, her body was at war with itself. The shaking started in her left hand. Tiny, quiet, something only she could feel. 7 hours since her last pill. The drug vein called vitamins was burning out of her blood, and when it was completely gone, her nervous system would follow right behind it. She didn't have time to be standing here watching 2 powerful men argue over money. She needed to be 3 buildings away, rifle ready, taking out the man sitting at the head of this very table. But Vane had specifically asked her to be here tonight, and saying no meant questions she couldn't answer. The room was huge. 60 feet of glass walls with San Francisco spread out below them like a map made of light. Rain was smashing against the windows, turning the city into a blurry painting. Between her and the door sat 12 people. Vane's security team, his accountant, his lawyer, and the man they called the Tiger of Soul, Rin Cho. She had studied his file the moment he first showed up in the city 6 months ago. 34 years old. Heir to the West Coast Syndicate, trained in 3 martial arts, fluent in 5 languages, and quietly responsible for making 7 rival operators disappear without leaving behind enough evidence to fill a teacup. The photos in that file had not prepared her for seeing him in person, the way he took up space. The stillness in his body that made you feel violence was just sitting there, held back by a single thread. He sat across from Vane in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Dark hair pushed back from a face made of sharp angles and sharper focus. His hands were resting on the table, relaxed, ready. She had seen hands like that before, hands that had killed. The port territory, Vane was saying, sliding a folder across the table. Full control, $50 million a year minimum. All I need is your word that you'll stop messing with my shipments through Oakland. Rin didn't reach for the folder. His eyes followed her instead, tracking her as she moved along the wall, refilling water glasses nobody was drinking. She felt the weight of his stare like something physical, measuring her, assessing her. It wasn't the usual look she'd learned to ignore. The one that saw a black woman in a servant's uniform and made all the wrong assumptions. This was different. Surgical, your people have been sloppy, Rin said, still watching her. His English was crisp, precise, the kind learned in boardrooms and battlefields. 3 shipments intercepted in 2 months. The feds are circling. Isolated incidents. Vane said with a wave of his hand. That's exactly why I'm offering you a generous partnership. Take the port, grow your revenue, everyone wins. She reached the side table where a second bottle was waiting. The shaking moved up her forearm. She had to clench her jaw to hold her grip steady. 2 days, maybe less. The withdrawal would start with shaking, move into seizures, then collapse her entire nervous system. She had spent months studying that drug. Vane's private formula, designed to keep people like her obedient and dependent. He had been dosing her for 3 years. Behind her, Vane's head of security, a thick-necked man named Cole, made a disgusted sound. Can't even pour a drink without shaking. Pathetic. The words barely touched her. She had survived worse. Was surviving worse right now. The real problem was that Cole had noticed the tremors, which meant others would soon. She needed to finish this tonight, withdrawal or not, before her window closed completely. Perhaps the maid needs a break. A woman's voice cut through the room. Dana, Vane's second in command. She had positioned herself right next to Rin, her body language screaming ownership. Red dress, red lips, red nails tapping against the table edge. She had clearly decided tonight was the night to get Rin's attention. "She's fine where she is," Vane said, not even glancing over. "Pour the wine." She moved to the table with the bottle they had opened specially for this meeting. $14,000 worth of red wine. She knew that because she had helped catalog Vane's collection last month, while planting surveillance equipment behind it. She reached for Dana's glass. The shaking got worse. Red wine splashed across white linen like blood from a wound. The room went completely silent. "Are you seriously kidding me right now?" Dana's voice could have etched glass. She shoved back from the table, wine spreading toward her dress. "This is a $4,000 dress. My apologies," she said. Flat, no feeling, no fear. The exact same tone she had used 5 years ago, confirming kills to her handlers. "Your apologies." Dana's laugh was sharp as broken glass. She turned to Rin, one hand dropping possessively onto his shoulder. "This is what Vane tolerates, help that can't do basic tasks. If she worked for me, she'd already be gone." Her fingers traced slowly down Rin's arm. "Someone like you understands quality, the importance of surrounding yourself with excellence." She kept her face blank. But her mind was already working. Dana's positioning was calculated. She wanted Rin's alliance, maybe more than that. The negotiation had layers Vane either didn't notice or didn't care about. Rin removed Dana's hand from his arm, the way you might remove a knife from a surface. Not aggressive, just final. Then his attention moved fully, completely to her for the first time since she had walked into the room. The impact hit her like a physical thing. Up close, his eyes weren't just dark brown. They were layered bronze and amber underneath, and something older. Something that seemed to recognize what she was hiding beneath the starch and the subservience. His gaze dropped to her hands, to the shaking she couldn't control, then lower to the callus on her right index finger, the one that came from thousands of hours on a trigger. Her pulse jumped. Nobody noticed that callus. She had filed it down, treated it, deliberately hidden it. But Rin's eyes stayed there for 3 seconds too long, and when he looked back up at her face, she saw the calculation behind his expression. He knew not everything but enough. Enough to know she was not what she appeared to be. "Shall we finish this?" Rin's voice cut through the tension, but he hadn't broken eye contact with her. Vane laughed, satisfied and sharp. "Eager to get started with your new territory. Smart man. Yes, let's finish. You take the port. My shipments go through unimpeded. We both make money. Simple." "You offered me anything," Rin said slowly, every word deliberate, "to end our disagreement. Is that offer still open?" Vane spread his hands. "Within reason. Money, territory, business opportunities, name it." Rin's eyes finally released her. He turned back to Vane with that same controlled calm, but something had shifted. Some decision had been made in that long silent moment of looking at each other. "I don't want the port," Rin said. The room seemed to breathe in all at once. Dana's hand froze halfway to her glass. Vane's confident expression cracked slightly, confusion bleeding through. "Then what?" Vane asked. "The dock warehouse, my Sacramento connections. What are you playing at?" Rin stood. The movement was slow, unhurried, but every single eye in the room followed it. He crossed to where she stood by the side table, walking toward her the way a predator closes distance on an equal. He stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne. Cedar, smoke, something subtle. Close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to hold his gaze. She didn't step back, couldn't. Her body had locked into a stillness that was half paralysis, half predator freeze. "Her," Rin said, not looking away from her face. "I want her, the maid, not the port, not the money, her." The silence that followed was not empty. It was dense, heavy with shock, heavy with confusion. with the sound of power dynamics breaking apart and reassembling themselves in real time. Then Vane started laughing, deep, genuine, building until tears gathered at the corners of his eyes. Cole joined in, then the lawyer, then the security detail, a full chorus of mockery filling that glass-walled room. The help, Vane gasped between laughs, the broke. Down, trembling Maid. Rin, I thought you were serious, I am. 2 words. They cut through the laughter like a blade through silk. The room went quiet. Vane studied Rin with new wariness now, searching for the angle. The trap, the hidden play, she's nobody, worthless. She can't even pour wine properly. Why would you possibly? That's not your concern. Rin's voice left no room for argument. You offered anything. I'm choosing her. Do you stand by your word? Or do I tell the other families that Dominic Vane's promises are meaningless? The threat landed perfectly. Vane's entire operation depended on the reliability of his word. Refusing now would be admitting weakness, signaling that his deals couldn't be trusted. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She kept her face completely empty, the perfect mask of a servant who had learned not to expect anything better. Whatever Vane saw satisfied him. He shrugged. Take her. She's yours. I won't even charge you for the uniform. His smile was mean and small. Consider it a gift. Maybe you can train her to do something useful, though I doubt it. Dana had gone from red to white to red again. You cannot be serious. Her over an actual business deal. Over. She gestured at herself, fury and wounded pride shaking her voice. She is nothing. She's mine now. Rin extended his hand toward her, palm up, an offer, not a command. We're leaving. Her mind raced through possibilities. This was wrong. All of it was wrong. Negotiations didn't end like this. Men like Rin didn't refuse $50 million for a maid. The only explanation that made sense was the one that terrified her. He had seen through her cover. He knew she was subject 0, or suspected it, and he wanted to use that somehow. But she was out of time and out of options. Vane's pills were locked in a safe she couldn't access alone. Going with Rin gave her 47 hours to figure out a new plan. Staying here gave her maybe 20, before the withdrawal got bad enough that Vane realized his hidden weapon was trying to escape. Her hand found his palm was warm, his grip was firm but not trapping. He kept her hand as he turned back to Vane. The territories you wanted in Seoul, consider them yours, payment for her. He pulled a slim tablet from his inside pocket. Tapped once, a transfer flashed green on the screen. 50 million transferred to your Cayman account. Verify it. Vane opened the case. His eyes went wide. Whatever was inside satisfied him far more than her departure ever could. Pleasure doing business, Rin, though I still think you're insane. Perhaps. Rin guided her toward the elevator with the lightest pressure on her hand. She moved with him, hyper-aware of every eye tracking them out. Dana's furious tears, Vane's satisfied smirk, the expression of a man who thought he'd just tricked someone into taking his trash. The elevator doors closed, brushed steel. Silence. Rin let go of her hand. He pressed the button for the garage level, then stood perfectly still, watching the numbers go down. Her mind ran through exit options. The elevator had an emergency hatch. She could disable him with a strike to the throat, climb out, disappear into the building's infrastructure. But her body wasn't reliable anymore. The shaking, the time limit, and something else. Something about the way he had looked at her. Not with hunger, not with cruelty, with recognition. The doors opened into the underground garage. Rain echoed through the concrete, drumming against metal and stone. A black car waited in the loading zone, engine already running. He opened the passenger door and waited. She slid into leather seats that felt like being wrapped in expensive armor. The interior smelled of rain and cedar, and something that felt like a life that had never been hers, but was being offered anyway. He got in the driver's side and pulled into traffic without saying a word. The city blurred, past in streaks of light and neon, every block taking them farther from Vane's penthouse. farther from the pills keeping her functional, farther from the life she had spent 3 years building cover inside. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight. She knew interrogation tactics, knew how silence could be used to make people uncomfortable, make them talk, make them reveal what they had planned to protect. She also knew how to resist, how to sit in silence until the other person broke first. But this wasn't an interrogation. This was something else entirely. She turned to study his profile. Sharp jaw, a scar above his left eyebrow, thin and old. His hands on the wheel showed the same controlled tension she felt in her own body. Coiled tight, ready to react to a threat from any direction. They crossed the bridge, the cables disappearing into fog as thick as cotton. The city fell away behind them, replaced by dark hills and coastal darkness. Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. Before she could calculate whether asking made her look weak or curious or desperate. His hands tightened on the wheel. The muscle in his jaw worked, like he was physically holding words back. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and controlled, but threaded with something she couldn't quite name. Because I know what it looks like when someone is dying slowly. He didn't look at her, just kept his eyes on the road. On the rain, slicked asphalt unwinding ahead. And I know what it looks like when someone is dangerous but pretending not to be. Her breath caught. I don't know what you— Yes, you do. Now he did glance at her, just for a second, but it was enough to see that he absolutely knew. Maybe not everything, maybe not your name or your history, but you are not a maid. He paused. I saw the callus on your trigger finger. I saw the way you mapped the exits. I saw someone surviving in there, not serving. The admission should have terrified her, should have triggered every escape protocol she had ever trained. Instead, it settled over her like a strange kind of relief. To be seen, to not have to pretend, just for this one moment. And what do you plan to do with me? She asked. Now that you've bought someone who isn't what she appears to be. His smile was small and dark, edged with something that might have been respect. I haven't decided yet, but I know what I'm not going to do. He took the exit toward the cliffs, toward whatever waited in the darkness ahead. I'm not going to let you die. The car climbed winding roads cutting through ancient forest. Fog drifted between the trees like slow, moving ghosts. Her hands trembled in her lap, not just from fear or withdrawal now, but from the weight of a choice she hadn't expected to have. Trust the criminal who had seen through her disguise, or trust the withdrawal that promised certain death. When the estate emerged from the fog, all glass and steel and warm light spilling from tall windows, she realized she had already made her choice. She had made it the moment she took his hand back in Vane's penthouse. Now she just had to survive long enough to find out if it was the right one. The estate rose from the cliffs like something carved from shadow and glass. She pressed her palm to the cool window as they approached, cataloging defensive positions through the fog. 3 floors, east and west wings, too many windows to cover alone. The architecture was beautiful, the way predators are beautiful, all clean lines hiding lethal purpose. He pulled into an underground garage that smelled of concrete and motor oil. The silence between them had hardened during the drive into something almost solid. When he opened her door, his hand appeared beside her, an offer, not a command. She ignored it, stepping out on legs that trembled with more than just withdrawal. 45 hours remaining. The elevator rose in smooth silence. Mirrors on every wall, multiplying their reflections into an endless hall of versions of themselves. She watched his face in the glass, searching for tells. His jaw stayed set, his breathing stayed controlled. Whatever he intended for her, he was patient enough to wait. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse that stole what little breath she had left. Where Vane's space had been cold marble and intimidation, this space breathed warmth, floors the color of honey. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the Pacific stretching endlessly into darkness. Furniture that looked comfortable rather than just expensive, though she suspected it was both. An older woman stepped out from a side corridor, silver hair pulled into an elegant knot. Her eyes were kind, sharp, missing nothing as they moved across the trembling hands, and hollow face standing in the entryway. "Mrs. Song," Rin said in Korean, then switched to English. "This is Zara. She'll need the East Wing prepared, medical supplies, privacy. Mrs.?" Song bowed slightly, her gaze flickering between them with questions she was too professional to ask. "Of course, Mr. Cho. This way, dear." She followed the housekeeper down a corridor lined with abstract art. Bold slashes of color that made her think of blood and broken glass. The room Mrs. Song led her to was larger than any space she had been in for 3 years. Cream walls, a 4-poster bed dressed in linens that looked impossibly soft. French doors opening onto a private balcony where fog rolled in off the ocean like something alive. "The bathroom is through there," Mrs. Song gestured. "Fresh towels in the cabinet. I'll bring up some clothes that should fit. Are you hungry?" Her stomach was a knot of anxiety and chemical need. She shook her head. Food would just come back up when the next wave hit. "If you need anything, the intercom is by the bed." Mrs. Song's expression softened into something that looked like pity, which she hated more than cruelty. "You're safe here." The words hung in the air after she left. Safe. She had forgotten what that word even meant. She moved through the room with professional efficiency, checking exits, testing window locks, searching for surveillance equipment. Nothing. Either Rin was careless, unlikely, or he wanted her to feel unwatched. Another manipulation, probably, but one she would use. The bathroom was all white marble and quiet luxury, a tub deep enough to drown in. She caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Dark circles under her eyes, skin dull and drained under the harsh lights, the uniform hanging on her like it belonged to a different person. She needed to move, needed to act before the next wave hit and she lost mobility. She stripped off the uniform, left it crumpled on the floor like shed skin, pulled on the silk robe hanging behind the door. It smelled faintly of sandalwood. And something else, his scent. This was his room, or had been. The implication made her pause. He had given her his space. Why? Focus. She needed his biometric data to access Vane's servers, steal the antidote formula, and disappear before the withdrawal finished the job. Simple extraction. She had done harder infiltrations. She moved through the quiet penthouse, following the sound of ice against glass, and found Rin in what had to be his study. Dark wood and leather everywhere. Shelves lined with books in Korean, Japanese, English. He stood at a bar cart, pouring amber liquid into a crystal glass. He had removed his jacket. The white shirt underneath was rolled at the sleeves, revealing forearms marked with muscle and old scars. She recognized knife work, close quarters combat. He turned when she entered, his dark eyes tracking her across the room. In the low light, he looked younger, or maybe just less guarded. The weight of command had eased from his shoulders, leaving behind something more dangerous. "Curiosity, you should be resting." He said, "No command in it, just observation. I needed to thank you." She kept her voice soft, submissive, the version of herself she had perfected under Vane's roof for everything. "I don't understand why you chose me, but I'm grateful." He studied her with that unsettling intensity, like he could see straight through flesh to the math underneath. "Are you?" "Yes." She moved closer, into the orbit of his space, close enough to smell whiskey and cedar, close enough to feel the heat coming off him. "Is there anything I can do to show my appreciation?" The offer sat between them, heavy with implication. She watched his face for the predatory gleam she had seen in so many men, the moment when they thought they had won. Instead, something that looked almost like disappointment crossed his expression. "Sit down." He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. When she hesitated, he added, "Please." She sat, hyper-aware of the silk robe, the way it revealed more than it hid. Rin settled on the edge of the desk, close enough that she could count the flecks of bronze in his eyes, if she wanted to. "Give me your hands," he said quietly. Every instinct told her to refuse, but she needed him off balance, needed him to feel like he had the upper hand. She extended her hands, palms up, trying not to look at the way her fingers twitched. He took them carefully, His touch was warm and rough with calluses of his own. He turned her hands over, studying them with the focus of someone reading a language only he understood. His thumb traced the callus on her trigger finger, the one she had tried so hard to hide. Who broke you? His voice was barely above a whisper, not an accusation. A question asked by someone who understood personally what breaking looked like. I'm not broken. The words came out harder than she intended. No, his eyes met hers. Something in that look made her chest constrict. You're sharp enough to cut, but someone tried to shatter you first. She pulled her hands back, her pulse hammering. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to see her as weak, desperate, pliable. Instead, he was seeing her, actually seeing her. The whiskey, she said, nodding toward his glass. Can I have some? He poured a measure without comment. She took it, letting her fingers brush his as she accepted the glass. Something moved between them, undeniable and dangerous. She brought the whiskey to her lips, drank just enough to taste the burn, then added the powder she had palmed from the first aid kit in the bathroom. To new beginnings, she said, handing it back. He accepted the glass, his eyes never leaving hers as he drank. She watched his throat move, watched him finish the whiskey in 3 long pulls, watched him set the empty glass down and return his full attention to her with that maddening composure. You drugged it, he said calmly. Her blood went cold. No, yes, you did. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he was committed to solving. Something sedative, probably. Maybe custom. It won't work. Why not? Because I built up immunity years ago. He reached out, tucking a loose braid behind her ear with a gentleness that felt almost strange given the context. I was drugged by better killers than you, little bird, though I appreciate the effort. Her mind raced through exit routes. The balcony, the elevator. How fast could she move before her legs gave out? Relax. His hand settled on her shoulder. A light pressure that somehow rooted her in place. I'm not angry. Then what? Are you curious? He stood, moving to the windows overlooking the ocean. His reflection was a ghost in the glass. You're dying. You could have begged for help. Instead, you tried to drug me. Why? Because begging was weakness. Because trust was suicide. Because every single person who had ever promised to help her had left her bleeding in the dark. I need the antidote formula, she heard herself say, truth instead of strategy. Maybe the withdrawal was already affecting her judgment. Vane keeps it on a private server. I need your security access to get to it. Rin turned. The look on his face was unreadable. You are going to steal it and run. Yes. Even knowing you have less than 2 days to synthesize a cure. Yes. Silence stretched between them. Then he did something that shattered every assumption she had built about this man. He smiled, not cruel. Not mocking, genuine, like she had just passed a test she hadn't known she was taking. I'll help you, he said. She stared at him. Why would you? Because I recognize a soldier when I see one. And soldiers deserve better than dying in enemy territory. He crossed to his desk, unlocked a drawer, and pulled out a small device. This is my biometric access key. It'll get you into any system I have access to. Take it. She accepted it with numb fingers. What do you want in return? Nothing tonight. His gaze held hers. Intense and somehow tender. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow we'll talk about Vane, about what you really are, about why my stepfather tried to have you killed 5 years ago. The room tilted. How did you? Subject 0. His voice was soft, almost reverent. My father used to tell me stories about you, the ghost who never misses. I didn't believe them until tonight, when I watched you calculate the wind from a moving car. He paused. Be safe, little bird. Whatever you're planning, be safe. He said the last sentence in Korean, the same quiet phrase he had murmured in the car. A prayer meant for her, her vision blurred, not from withdrawal, from something more dangerous. She stood, forcing her legs to hold, and went back to her room. The access key burned in her palm like a brand. She should use it immediately, should hack the servers, steal the formula, and be gone before sunrise. Instead, she sank onto the bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to the ocean beyond the glass. Somewhere in the penthouse, Rin moved through his own quiet nighttime rituals. She could feel his presence like something with gravity. The shaking started in her left hand again. The room dimmed at the edges, shadows creeping in. 44 hours. But for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't sure she wanted to run anymore. Morning arrived wrapped in fog, so thick it erased everything beyond the windows. She woke disoriented. Her body a full orchestra of pain. The tremors had moved into her core, making her muscles clench and release in rhythms she couldn't control. Sweat had soaked the sheets. Her vision swam, doubled, then corrected itself. 42 hours. She forced herself upright, her legs shaking as they found the floor. The access key sat on the nightstand, and where she had left it? Unused, accusing. She had meant to hack the servers last night, had planned to be gone before sunrise. Instead, she had fallen into a sleep so deep it felt like drowning. A soft knock. Mrs. Song came in with a tray. Coffee, rice porridge, sliced fruit arranged with careful precision. Mr. Cho asked me to check on you. Her eyes landed on the trembling hands. You're unwell. I'm fine. You are clearly not. Mrs. Song's expression shifted into something maternal that made her throat go tight. Should I call a doctor? No doctors. The words came out harder than intended. Doctors meant hospitals. Hospitals meant records. Records meant questions she had no answers for. Mrs. Song nodded slowly, like she understood more than she was letting on. Mr. Cho is waiting downstairs. He says there's somewhere you need to go. She paused at the door. He's a good man, dear, better than most who walk his path. You can trust him. Could she? She dressed in the clothes that had been left in the closet. Dark jeans, a black sweater, boots made for running, tactical choices disguised as casual wear. Her reflection showed a woman standing right on the knife's edge between functional and falling apart. She found Rin in the garage, leaning against the same black car from last night. Though when the engine turned over, it sounded different. Upgraded, armored. He straightened when he saw her, his eyes cataloging every detail of how much worse she looked. You look worse, he said bluntly, charming, honest. He opened the passenger door. We need to move. Vane knows you're gone by now. He'll be hunting. She slid into the seat, hyper-aware of how much her body protested every movement. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. One of my properties on the peninsula. A location even Vane doesn't know about. He pulled out of the garage, the engine a low, contained growl. They drove in silence through streets still quiet with early morning. The city looked different in this light. Softer, more vulnerable. She watched his hands on the wheel, remembering the way they had held hers the night before. Gentle despite what those hands were capable of. You didn't use the access key, he said, eyes on the road. I fell asleep. You could have left. I know. Why didn't you? Because exhaustion had won. Because something about his penthouse had felt safer than any extraction point she had ever planned. Because when he called her little bird, it didn't feel like an insult. I'm not sure, she admitted. His mouth curved, not quite a smile. Honest, that's new for you. Before she could respond, the world exploded. The first shot shattered the rear window into a web of broken glass. He reacted instantly, jerking the wheel, accelerating into traffic. She snapped back against her seat belt as the car fishtailed. Down, he barked. But she was already moving. Muscle memory overriding her body's protests. She twisted in her seat, scanning through the fractured glass. 3 black vehicles, professional formation, not Vane's crew. This was military precision. Another shot punched through the passenger window, missing her temple by inches. The sound in the enclosed space was catastrophic, a crack that left her ears ringing. He swerved onto the bridge approach ramp, the engine roaring. Wind screamed through the broken windows, carrying the smell of ocean and gunpowder. She braced against the door, her vision narrowing with adrenaline and withdrawal. Her body was shutting down at the worst possible moment. My people are on the bridge, he said, voice tight with focus. We just need to. The lead vehicle rammed them from behind. Metal screamed. The car lurched forward, tires fighting for grip on wet asphalt. Through the fog, the bridge towers emerged like ancient red sentinels standing guard at the crossing between worlds. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. She counted muzzle flashes. 3 shooters per vehicle, 9 total. His security detail returned fire from positions along the bridge, but they were pinned down and outgunned. There's a rifle in the trunk, he said, his voice carrying an edge she hadn't heard from him before. Not fear, calculation, custom modifications. Her heart kicked against her ribs. How did you? He yanked the wheel, positioning the car behind a concrete barrier. The cover lasted 3 seconds before bullets chewed through it. Can you shoot? Could she? Her hands were shaking hard. Her vision was swimming. She had maybe 30 seconds of functional motor control before her body completely mutinied. Yes, she lied. His eyes found hers in the chaos, dark, impossibly calm. Then do what you do best, Subject Zero. The name hit her like something physical. He had known all along. She kicked open her door and used it as a shield, scrambling to the back of the car. Bullets sparked off metal, whining past her head close enough to feel the displaced air. She popped the trunk. And there it was, custom rifle, matte black, scope calibrated to specifications she had written herself 5 years ago. He hadn't just found a sniper rifle. He had found her rifle, her specifications, her weapon. She assembled it with shaking hands. Every motion, a fight against her own body. Bolt, magazine, scope, the familiar weight settled against her shoulder like coming home. 800 meters to the lead vehicle. Wind at 15 knots from the west. Fog cutting visibility to 60%. Withdrawal cutting her down to 40% functionality. The math was impossible. She breathed, 1 breath. 2, the world narrowed to the scope's crosshairs. She found the lead driver through the windshield. Watched his mouth move. Watched him reach for his radio to call in reinforcements. Her trigger finger trembled. The crosshairs drifted. She had never missed, not once in 6 years of active operations. But she had never been dying before either. Zara. His voice came through the chaos, steady as bedrock. I trust you. 3 words, absurd in their simplicity, devastating in their weight. She stopped fighting her body, stopped trying to force the stillness that had been drilled into her through years of training. Instead, she remembered what her very first instructor had taught her, back before all of this had started, back before Subject Zero had been born. You are not the rifle, he had said. You are the breath between shots. You are the pause. Find the stillness inside the motion. The tremor became a rhythm. She tracked it, 1 breath, 2, 3. At the apex of the 4th breath, between 2 heartbeats, the world stopped. She fired. The recoil slammed into her shoulder. The shot rolled across the bridge like single clap of thunder that silenced everything else. Through the scope, she watched the driver's head snap back. watched the vehicle veer wildly, clip the railing, and flip in a spectacular cascade of metal and glass. The other vehicles scattered. His security detail pressed the advantage, driving the attackers back into full retreat. Silence fell, broken only by wind and the sound of her own ragged breathing. She lowered the rifle. Her arms were numb. Her legs wouldn't hold her. She sank against the back of the car, the weapon clattering to the asphalt beside her. He appeared in her narrowing field of vision, crouching in front of her, his hands cupping her face with a gentleness that felt impossible given what had just happened. 800 meters, he said, shaking his head slowly, through a moving window. That shot should not have been physically possible. She tried to laugh. It came out as a wheeze. Never miss. No, you don't. His thumb traced her cheekbone, wiping away sweat or tears. She couldn't tell which. Subject 0, the ghost who walks through walls and leaves nothing behind. The legend my father told me about to scare me into excellence. Not a legend. Speaking was getting difficult. Just a woman. You're extraordinary. He lifted her with careful strength and carried her back to the passenger seat. The world blurred and refocused in nauseating waves. She heard him speaking rapidly in Korean, orders to his men, coordinates for a new location. The engine roared, motion returned. Her head fell back against the seat, her body surrendering to the withdrawal's slow advance. Stay with me, he said, his hand finding hers, squeezing, anchoring. We're almost there. Stay with me. She wanted to. God, she wanted to, but darkness was already at the edges. Patient, inevitable. The last thing she heard before it took her was his voice. Steady and fierce and closer than it should have been. I won't let you die, little bird. Not after this. Not ever. She surfaced from the dark to the sensation of being flayed alive from the inside out. Every nerve ending was on fire. Every muscle locked and releasing in spasms she couldn't control. She tried to scream, but her jaw was clenched too tight. Teeth grinding hard enough to crack. The sound that came out was animal, raw, broken. Hold her. A voice she didn't know. Male, hands on her shoulders, her legs, pressing her down against something soft, a bed. She was on a bed in a room she didn't recognize. Dim lighting, concrete walls, the smell of disinfectant and something medicinal that made her gag. A safe house, but not the one he had mentioned. Another wave hit. Her spine arched, every muscle contracting at once. The pain was total, a symphony of agony conducting her body without her permission. She was drowning inside her own nervous system. Zara, a different voice, this one she knew. Rin, his face swam into focus above her. Features carved from stone except for his eyes. Those eyes burned with something that looked like fear. Listen to my voice, focus on me. She tried, she really tried, but the hallucinations were starting. The walls were breathing. Shadows moved with purpose. In the corner of her vision, she saw her first instructor, his throat cut and bleeding. Saw her team from the eclipses, dead on a tarmac where they had been ambushed. Saw Vane's wide, terrible smile as he held up the pills that had become her chains. Not real, she gasped, not real. That's right, none of it is real. His hands framed her face, pulling her focus back to him. What's real is this room, this moment, me, focus, can't. Another convulsion ripped through her. She felt her bladder release. Shame flooded her body alongside everything else. Pathetic, disgusting. Weak, get out. His voice snapped across the room. All of you, now. Footsteps retreated, a door closed. They were alone. She felt tears sliding from the corners of her eyes. Hot, humiliating. This was what Vane had reduced her to. Not the trained operative, not subject 0. Just a woman breaking apart while withdrawing from a drug she had hated every single day, but had been forced to swallow just to survive. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't. His voice was fierce. Don't you dare apologize for this, for what he did to you. He lifted her carefully, carrying her toward a door she hadn't noticed, a bathroom, white and clinical. He set her down in the tub, fully clothed, and turned on the shower. Warm water came down over both of them. She sobbed, great heaving gasps that shook her entire body, not just from the pain, though that was there and overwhelming. from the sheer indignity of being this helpless in front of someone who had watched her make an impossible shot just hours ago. "I've got you." His hands moved steadily, stripping away her soiled clothes with clinical efficiency. No desire in it, no judgment, just care. "I've got you, little bird." The nickname undid something in her chest. She had been so many things in her life: asset, target, ghost, subject zero. But little bird, that was something else. Something softer than she had ever been allowed to be. He bathed her with a gentleness that felt surreal given everything around them. Washed her hair, cleaned the vomit she didn't even remember producing from her skin. Through all of it, he spoke to her in a low, steady voice, mixing Korean and English in a rhythm that felt like a lullaby. "When I was 12, he said, soaping her arms, "my stepfather locked me in a freezer for 3 days. Punishment for disrespecting him at a business dinner. I lost control of my bladder on the second day. Thought I would die of shame before the cold finished me." She opened her eyes, finding his face through the water. "My father found me before it was too late, held me while I shook and cried and apologized. You know what he told me." She shook her head, unable to find words. "He said, survival is never shameful. Whatever you have to do to stay alive, whatever your body does to keep you here, that is not weakness. That is evolution." His thumb traced her jaw. "You survived 3 years under Vane. You kept your mind intact while he poisoned your body. That's not weakness, Zara. That's war." The convulsion that followed was different, not pain, something closer to breaking open. She reached for him. Her trembling fingers found his wrist and held on like he was the only solid thing left in a tilting world. He turned off the water, wrapped her in towels that smelled of cedar, carried her back to the bed, fresh sheets, soft blankets. He dried her carefully, then dressed her in clean clothes, his clothes, she realized. A shirt that hung to her thighs, sweatpants she had to roll at the waist, the withdrawal she managed. "How long?" "My doctor says 70, 2 hours for the worst of it. Then another week for your nervous system to stabilize." "I don't have a week. You do now." He sat on the edge of the bed. His hand found hers. "I have 3 chemists working on synthesizing the antidote. They analyzed the breakdown in your blood. They've made a temporary stabilizer. It'll keep you alive and functional. But the permanent cure, the formula to reverse the nerve damage Vane keeps that on an air-gapped server. We still need to get to it." She stared at him, trying to process through the fog of pain. Why are you doing this? You don't know me." "I know enough." His expression shifted, something raw surfacing beneath the composure. "I know Vane kept you drugged and controlled for 3 years. I know my stepfather, Senator Lawton, ordered your team killed and had you framed for treason. I know you've been alone, fighting a war no one else could see." He paused, jaw working. "And I know what it feels like to be trapped by someone else's cruelty, to have your own body turned into a weapon against you. I was in that situation for 10 years until I was strong enough to do something about it." His smile was dark, edged with old pain. "But I didn't act. My biological father stopped me, not out of morality, out of greed. Lawton was too valuable to the syndicate's political connections. My father forbade me from touching him." He paused. "My father died 6 months ago. The leash is off. So you planned, waited. When I was 23, I destroyed Lawton financially, crippled his private equity firm, but he pivoted, used Vane's dirty money to buy his way into politics, rebuilding his power in a place I couldn't reach him legally. He turned her hand over in his. Death is quick, ruin is forever." Another wave hit. Her vision blacked out completely. Panic clawed up her throat. "Can't see." She gasped. "Rin, I can't." "Temporary. Your doctor said it would happen. Your optic nerves are inflamed from the withdrawal. It'll pass, I promise." "How long?" "A day, maybe less, blind." Helpless while Vane hunted them, she laughed. The sound came out bitter and broken. "Should have just let me die, on the bridge. Never say that again." His hands tightened on hers. "I'm a liability now. You're my partner now." The bed shifted as he lay down beside her, not touching. Just close enough that she could feel him. Solid, real, warm rest. "I'll keep watch. Can't sleep. Then I'll talk. I'll tell you stories until you do." And he did. His voice became her entire world in the darkness. He told her about growing up in Seoul, about learning to fight in back alleys and boardrooms, about his father teaching him that real power was strategy, not just violence, about the first time he killed someone, a rival who had targeted his family, about the nightmares that followed. She listened, her body gradually unclenching despite the pain. There was something about his voice, the way he gave her pieces of himself without asking for anything back. "Why did you choose me?" she asked when he paused. "In Vane's penthouse, you could have taken anything. Why me?" "Silence, because I saw myself in you," he finally said. "The version of me before I learned I could fight back. Someone trapped and terrified and too proud to show it." His hand found hers again in the dark. "And because when you spilled that wine, your hand was shaking from withdrawal, not fear. I knew then what you were underneath the uniform. Someone who would burn the entire world down if given the chance, and I wanted to give you that chance." His voice dropped lower, intimate in the darkness. "I wanted to see what Subject Zero would do if someone set her free." Her chest constricted. No one had ever talked about her like that, like she was a person instead of a function, like her freedom mattered more than her usefulness. "I'm going to disappoint you," she whispered. Impossible. Another convulsion took her shorter this time. He held her through it, one arm anchored across her waist, his other hand moving gently across her braids. "Sleep, little bird," he murmured against her temple. "I'll watch over you, always." It was that word, always, that broke her. The certainty of it. The promise she didn't dare believe, but was too exhausted to keep doubting. She sank into unconsciousness with his hand in hers and his warmth at her back. And for the first time in 3 years, she didn't dream about death. She woke to sight returning in pieces. First light, then shapes, then finally detail, the concrete ceiling, medical equipment humming in the corner. Rin slouched in a chair beside the bed, eyes closed, but posture rigid. He hadn't actually slept, just rested while staying on guard. She studied him in the harsh light of the bunker, sharp angles softened by exhaustion, dark shadows under his eyes, stubble along his jaw that made him look younger, more exposed. There was a grace to him even completely still, the coiled readiness of something that never fully relaxed. "You're staring," he said without opening his eyes. Her pulse jumped. "How did you?" Your breathing changed. His eyes opened, dark and immediately alert. He stood stretching with a kind of fluid ease, then crossed to check the Roman 4 drip, feeding clear liquid into her arm. "The worst is over. The preliminary antidote is holding. It'll keep you functional until we can make the full cure." He sat on the edge of the bed, close. "You were out for 18 hours. 18 hours, an entire day gone. Vane is tearing the city apart looking for you." His eyes found hers. "My people intercepted his communications. He knows you're the one who has been sabotaging his operations for the past year. He wants you back, not to kill you, to make an example." She knew what that looked like. She had seen the bodies. "Then we need to move, get out of the city before you explain why you've been in communication with his head of security." The world tilted. "What?" He produced a phone from his pocket, held it up, evidence. "We cracked your burner, found text messages, coordinates, shipment times, all sent to Coal Reeves, Vane's right hand." Her mind raced. The burner, she had been so careful, had only used it for "I can explain." She started, "Can you?" His voice was soft. Too soft, dangerous, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been feeding Vane intelligence, playing both sides, using me to get access to resources you needed. That's not. Then what is it? He stood pacing to the window, every line of his body broadcasting betrayal. "I brought you into my home, protected you, held you while you shook yourself apart, and the whole time you were working for him." The hurt in his voice was a knife between her ribs. She struggled upright, the Roman 4 pulling at her arm. "Rin, listen to me." "Why should I?" He turned, and the look on his face was the one she had seen in intelligence photographs. The tiger of soul, the man who destroyed rivals without mercy. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't put you back on the street, or better yet, deliver you to Vane myself, collect whatever he's offering, because you're smarter than that." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. You said it yourself. I'm subject 0. If I wanted to betray you, you'd already be dead. Maybe you're waiting for the right moment. Or maybe you should actually read those messages before you accuse me of treason. Read them out loud, every word. His jaw tightened. He looked at the phone, then back at her. Then he unlocked it and scrolled, and she watched as confusion began slowly replacing the anger. These aren't intelligence reports. These are coordinates. Abandoned warehouses. Warehouses Vane uses as staging points. I hacked their building management system 6 months ago as my own insurance policy, but this week I used those coordinates to send threats, drawing his attention away from your shipments. Rin's head snapped up. You what? The messages weren't intelligence I was giving to Cole. They were threats, locations I could blow up remotely if Vane pushed too hard, if he came for me before I was ready to finish this. She met his gaze steadily. I wasn't protecting Vane, Rin. I was protecting you. Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything that implied. He scrolled through more messages, his expression shifting, reading between the lines. The coordinates here, he said slowly. These would have pulled Vane's attention away from my shipping routes. Yes. And these dates, they match shipments you could have sabotaged but didn't. Because sabotaging them would have put you in direct conflict with Vane's partners. I didn't want you caught in the crossfire meant for me. He set the phone down carefully. He ran a hand through his hair, the most unguarded, agitated gesture she had seen from him. You were protecting me from the shadows. I couldn't let you get hurt because of me. You were the first person in 3 years who looked at me like I was human, who saw past the uniform. I wasn't going to repay that by bringing a war to your door, but you brought it anyway. His voice was quiet. Those men on the bridge, they weren't sent by Vane. They were sent by Lawton, my stepfather. He's connected to this, she said. To the eclipses, to the framing, to Vane. I don't know how exactly, but I do. I know. His voice went flat. The tone of someone delivering facts they wish weren't true. Lawton is Vane's silent partner, has been for 15 years. My intelligence confirmed it while you were unconscious. The revelation landed like a physical blow. The man who abused you is in business with the man who imprisoned me. Poetic, isn't it? His laugh was dark and bitter. The monsters in our lives are connected. We're always connected. She processed the pieces, fitting them together. The attack on my team 5 years ago, the frame job, Lawton ordered it because we stumbled onto evidence of his partnership with Vane. We weren't the target. We were witnesses he needed gone. And he failed with me. He kept you alive but neutralized. He crossed back to the bed, sitting close enough that their knees touched. Handed over to his partner, drugged into compliance, hidden in plain sight as a maid. A warning to anyone else who might discover their operation. And a backup asset if they ever needed a trained killer who couldn't refuse. The pieces locked together with sickening clarity. She had spent 3 years believing her survival was luck. It had been strategy. She was a weapon Vane, kept loaded, but never fired, waiting for the moment he needed her particular skills. We need to kill them both, she said flatly. Rin's eyebrows lifted slightly, direct, effective. You want revenge for your childhood. I want justice for my team. We can give each other what we need, by going to war with a senator and an arms dealer, by being smarter than them. He leaned closer, energy crackling between them. Vane thinks I'm helpless without his drugs. Lawton thinks I'm dead or broken. They're both wrong, and they have no idea we're working together. Working together. His hand found hers. His thumb traced the callus on her trigger finger. Is that what we're doing? The question had layers she wasn't ready to untangle. What else would you call it? A partnership? His voice dropped lower, intimate, an alliance, 2 ghosts haunting the same house, learning each other's shadows, her breath caught. This close she could see the exhaustion lining his face, could smell cedar and coffee and something purely him, could feel the heat coming off him, warming spaces in her that had been cold for years. I thought you were betraying me, he said quietly. For about 30 seconds, I thought you had played me, that everything, the vulnerability, the withdrawal, the trust was a long game. He paused. And I was going to let you live anyway. His free hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. I was going to drive you to the airport, give you money, and watch you disappear. Because even if you'd betrayed me, You deserved freedom more than I deserved revenge. The admission broke something loose in her chest. She had spent 3 years convinced she was unknowable, that no one would choose her if given the real option, that her value was only ever in her skills, never in herself. I didn't betray you, she whispered. I know. I won't betray you. I know that too. His forehead came to rest against hers. Achingly gentle. You're loyal to your bones, little bird. It's one of the things that makes you dangerous. What are the others? You don't know when to quit. You fight when you should run. You'd burn yourself to ash to keep your people safe. His breath ghosted across her lips. And your people now, that includes me. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes, good. He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching hers. Because we're about to do something incredibly stupid and probably suicidal, and I need to know you're completely with me. What kind of stupid? The kind where we fake my death, get you captured by Vane, use you as a Trojan horse to destroy his entire operation from the inside. She stared at him. Then, despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the impossible odds, she laughed. Real and genuine and surprised out of her. That's your plan? That's a terrible plan. That's a suicide plan. Yes. He smiled, and it transformed his face from intimidating to something else entirely. But it's exactly the kind of plan Subject Zero would love. High risk, maximum chaos, impossible odds. He wasn't wrong. The operative in her was already calculating angles, identifying variables, mapping the operation. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was exactly the kind of mission she used to live for. One condition, she said. Name it. If this goes wrong, if I'm compromised beyond extraction, you leave me behind. You don't risk yourself trying to come for me. Rin's expression hardened. No, Rin, no. His hands framed her face, holding her gaze steady. We do this together or not at all. You don't get to martyr yourself. Not on my watch. We're partners. Which means if you fall, I'm falling with you. That's not negotiable. That's strategically unsound. I don't care. His thumbs traced her cheekbones. I didn't pull you out of Vane's house to watch you sacrifice yourself. You want revenge, we'll get it together, but you don't get to die in the process. She should argue. Should point out every tactical flaw in emotional attachment. Should remind him that operatives who couldn't leave partners behind got everyone killed. Instead, she found herself nodding, agreeing to a partnership that had transformed somewhere between the penthouse and this safe house into something far more dangerous than any mission. Something that felt terrifyingly like trust. Together, she said, together. He sealed the promise with a kiss to her forehead. Chaste and reverent and heavy with meaning. Now rest. We have 3 days to prepare. When we move fast. 3 days until what? Until the charity gala at the Opera House, where every monster in the city gathers to pretend they're civilized. His smile was predatory, including Vane and Lawton, and that's where the tiger and the ghost will show them exactly what happens when you cage the wrong predators. The war room hummed with electronic life. Banks of monitors, showing surveillance feeds, encrypted communications, and live data streams from every corner of Vane's operation. She sat at the central console, her fingers moving across keyboards with the muscle memory of someone who had spent years navigating digital battlefields. Her vision had fully stabilized. The tremors had reduced to occasional twitches. The antidote Rin's chemists had synthesized was working, slowly purging Vane's poison from her system. She felt almost human again, almost herself, there, she said, highlighting a server cluster on the main display. That's the government database the Eclipses used for operational intelligence. If Lawton's involved, his fingerprints will be in the access logs. Rin stood behind her, his hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. He had barely left her side in the 3 days since her vision came back. Not hovering, just present, a solid warmth at her back that made her feel less like she was fighting alone. Can you get in? He asked, already am. She pulled up a cascade of files, filtering by date. I installed a back door 6 years ago during my first month with the Eclipses. Insurance policy in case the agency turned on me. Paranoid, prepared. She typed rapidly, narrowing the search. Here, access logs from 5 years ago, the week my team was ambushed. The screen filled with names and clearance levels. Her chest tightened as she recognized her fallen teammates. Rodriguez, Kim, Akono, Anderson. All dead on a tarmac in Yemen because they had stumbled onto evidence of a partnership that was never supposed to be found. The login came from a secure terminal in Lawton's private office. He used a stolen clearance code, but the IP address traces back to him. He downloaded our operational parameters, our route. Timing everything. She stopped. He sold us to Vane's people, fed them our location, set us up to be slaughtered. Not all of you. Rin leaned closer, his breath warm against her temple. You survived. Why? She called up the mission after-action report. The official story said she had been severely wounded, left for dead, evacuated to a military hospital. But she remembered the truth, remembered waking up in a facility that smelled wrong, remembered Vane's face above her, smiling like someone offering a deal. He kept me alive, convinced the eclipses I was too damaged to be operationally useful. I spent 2 years in a medically induced coma while they reconstructed my face and erased my identity. Then 3 years as his servant. She pulled up her fabricated medical files, seeing the invented injuries. These wounds, I never had them. Vane manufactured a paper trail, made it look like I was broken beyond repair. So Lawton's agency wouldn't look for you. They would assume you were being handled through proper channels, while Vane kept me drugged and turned me into his private asset. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Lawton had wanted her dead. Vane had wanted her controlled. They had compromised. She had vanished into Vane's organization, erased from official records, useful as a backup weapon when needed. There's more, Rin said. He reached past her, pulling up a different file. His hands were steady, but she could feel the tension radiating from his body. The file that opened made her blood go cold. A partnership agreement, dated 15 years ago. One signature read Dominic Vane, the other Arthur Lawton. They've been working together since before you were involved in any of this, she said. Since I was 10, Rin's voice was hollow. The year my father married Lawton's sister. The year Lawton moved into our home. The year the abuse started. He pulled up another document, a financial ledger showing millions of dollars moving between Lawton's political campaigns and Vane's shell corporations, laundered through charitable foundations, hidden inside real estate investments. Lawton provided political protection. Rin continued, his voice mechanical, delivering facts he wished were not true. Made sure Vane's shipments cleared customs, made sure investigations disappeared, made sure anyone who got too close ended up dead or discredited. Like my team, like your team. His hand found hers and squeezed, hard enough to hurt, and in exchange Vane funded Lawton's political rise, provided blackmail material on his opponents, removed obstacles with extreme prejudice. She turned in her chair to face him. His expression was carved from stone. But his eyes burned with a fury so intense it made her breath catch. "The man who beat me," Rin said quietly. "Who locked me in freezers and told me I was worthless. Who made my childhood a nightmare." He paused. "That man is responsible for your team's deaths, for your torture, for everything Vane did to you. He is the connection, the thread linking all of it." His smile was sharp enough to cut. "Destroy the foundation, and everything built on top of it collapses. You've been planning this for a while," she said. "Before you bought me from Vane. I've been planning Lawton's destruction since I was old enough to hold a knife." He crouched in front of her, bringing them eye level. "But I was missing a piece, something that would give me leverage over both of them simultaneously, something that would let me destroy them completely instead of just wound them. And then I appeared, and then you appeared." His hand came up, tucking a loose braid behind her ear. Subject 0, the weapon they thought they had neutralized, the witness they thought they had silenced, the ghost who knows where all the bodies are buried. Understanding arrived. "You didn't choose me randomly in that penthouse. No. You knew who I was, what I was. You had been looking for me. For 2 years," he admitted. "Ever since I discovered Lawton and Vane were partners. I knew they had killed your team to protect the operation. I knew one member had survived but vanished. I spent 2 years tracking Subject 0 through rumors and ghost stories, and then I got invited to negotiate with Vane." He paused, and there you were, hiding in plain sight, dying slowly, the perfect weapon waiting to be found. She should feel used, should feel like just another piece on his board. Instead, she felt something closer to relief, because he had never lied about his motives, had never pretended this was anything other than what it was. 2 people with matching reasons for revenge using each other to accomplish what neither could do alone. "So this has always been about revenge." "Yes." "You saved my life to use me against Lawton and Vane." "Yes." "And everything else, the care, the gentleness, holding me through the withdrawal, that was just strategy, earning my loyalty." His expression shifted. Something raw breaking through the calculation. "No, that," he paused, jaw working. "That started as strategy, but it stopped being strategy somewhere around the second time you looked at me like I was human instead of just a threat. It stopped being strategy when you drugged my whiskey and I realized you were trying to survive, not seduce. It stopped being strategy when you took that impossible shot on the bridge, and I understood I was looking at someone as broken and as dangerous as me. So what is it now? I don't know." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "But it's not strategy, it's not manipulation, it's something I don't have a word for yet, something that makes me want to burn the world down to keep you safe." Her heart kicked. This was dangerous, more dangerous than any mission, because she was starting to believe him, starting to want the thing his touch was quietly promising. "We can't afford this," she said, even as she leaned into his palm. "Can't afford to be compromised by caring. Little bird." His smile was sharp. "I passed compromised 3 days ago when I carried you out of Vane's penthouse. We're beyond strategic now, beyond tactical. We're in territory neither of us has mapped. That's going to get us killed, probably." He stood, pulling her up with him. "But if we're going to die, let's die taking them with us. Lawton, Vane, everyone who hurt us, everyone who thought we'd stay broken. Let's show them what happens when ghosts come back to haunt them." She looked at the evidence filling every monitor. Years of corruption. Decades of violence. 2 men who had built empires on the wreckage of people like them. "The gala is in 3 days," she said. 72 hours, he corrected. "Enough time to learn the layout, plant the equipment, make sure you don't miss. And you want me to shoot you in front of everyone. In front of the San Francisco elite and God himself." His grin was feral. "You'll need to hit the plate perfectly. If you miss, I won't miss." She met his gaze. "I'm subject 0. I never miss, no." His hand found hers. Their fingers threaded together with a rightness that felt like it had always been inevitable. "You don't, which is exactly why this is going to work. We fake my death. You get captured. Vane takes you back to his bunker where he keeps the full antidote formula. And while he's gloating, I'll be coming for him from below. And Lawton. Lawton will be at the gala, will watch me die, will think he's won, And that's when my people move on him, simultaneously, both targets, both locations, both monsters one night. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of operation that would either become legendary or get them both killed. She pulled up a schematic of the opera house, already calculating angles and exits. I'll need a clean line of sight, no obstructions. You'll be in the rafters. Access is already secured. And after I shoot you, when Vane's people close in, I surrender. Make it look real. They'll take you straight to him. He'll want to punish you personally for killing me. That's when you'll have access to everything. His servers, his antidote, his throat. You're asking me to put myself back in his hands. I'm asking you to trust me. He turned her to face him fully. To trust that I'll come for you, that you won't be alone in that bunker, that this time when the monster has you, you'll have backup, and if something goes wrong, we improvise together. That's what partners do, partners. The word settled over her like something promised. She had worked alone for so long, had learned to trust only herself, but looking at him now, seeing the determination in his eyes, feeling the steady strength in his hands, she found herself believing. Maybe she didn't have to be alone anymore. Maybe Subject Zero could have a partner after all. Together, she said, sealing it. Together, he pulled her into an embrace that felt like coming home. Now, let's go kill some monsters. The opera house glittered like a jewel box designed by someone who had never known the meaning of restraint. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across silk, draped walls. The city's elite circulated in their designer armor, names and labels she didn't care to remember. Champagne flowed, laughter echoed. Underneath all the civility, predators assessed each other with the timeless mathematics of power. She watched from the rafters, invisible in tactical black. The rifle in her hands was a familiar weight. Different weapon than the one in the trunk, but the principle was the same. Breathe, aim, neutralize. Except tonight, neutralizing wasn't the objective. Tonight was theater. Through her scope, she found Rin entering the main hall. He wore a tuxedo that transformed him from dangerous into devastating. Every woman in the room tracked his movement. Every man measured himself against the standard and came up short. The tiger of soul making an entrance. And there, halfway across the room, Dominic Vane, looking smug in his tailored suit, champagne in hand, laughing with a senator she didn't recognize. He thought he had won, thought she was dead or broken somewhere, no longer his problem. Lawton stood near the stage, distinguished, silver-haired, playing the role of respected politician with practiced ease. Her finger tightened on the trigger. Not yet, not him. The plan required precision. Ghost to tiger. She murmured into her earpiece, I have visual. You're clear to engage. Copy. Remember. His voice was steady in her ear. Center mass through the vest. Don't hesitate. I never hesitate. I know. A pause, that's one of the things I love about you. The word landed like a bullet she hadn't seen coming. Love, he had said it casually, easily, like it was established fact rather than revelation. Her breath caught. Focus, little bird. Amusement in his voice now. You can be shocked later. Right now we have a show to perform. Rin moved through the crowd the way a shark moves through shallow water. Conversations parted around him. He accepted champagne from a passing server, graceful, unhurried, just another predator at a gathering of predators. Then his path crossed Vane's. The collision was deliberate. Champagne splashed across Vane's jacket. Vane turned, irritation flashing across his face, then recognition. His expression went carefully neutral. Rin, unexpected. Dominic. Rin smiled, all teeth and no warmth. We need to talk about something you recently misplaced. I have no idea what you... The maid. Rin's voice dropped, but the acoustics carried it perfectly. People were already watching, leaning in. The one you sold me for nothing. The one who turned out to be significantly more valuable than you realized. Vane's face went white. Then red, that's not, you can't. What exposed that you've been keeping a Black Ops sniper drugged and imprisoned for 3 years? That you sold her to me without mentioning she was Subject Zero? That you've been using her to eliminate rivals while keeping her too chemically dependent to escape? The crowd murmured. Phones came out. This was better than theater. This was blood in the water. You have no proof. Vane hissed. Don't I? Rin produced a flash drive, holding it up for the room to see. Medical records, drug formulations, a confirmed kill list she performed under your orders while chemically enslaved. Should I put it on the screen behind you? Give everyone the full picture of what you are. Her scope tracked between them, Vane's security moving in, converging from multiple directions. This was the moment, the one that committed them both to the path or got them killed right here. You're a dead man, Vane said quietly. Probably. Rin's smile widened, but not before I ruin you. Vane's security is 20 feet from your position. She murmured into the earpiece. 15, you need to move now. Not yet. Need the visual. Need everyone to see. 10 feet. 5. Rin turned toward the stage. Toward Lawton, he caught the senator's eye across the room. Lawton's expression shifted from curiosity to alarm. He recognized the threat, understood what was happening. Senator Lawton, Rin called out, his voice filling the hall. Tell everyone about your partnership with Vane, about the Black Ops team you had killed, about Subject Zero. Lawton went pale. The crowd pressed closer. Now, little bird, Rin said softly, do it now. She breathed out. The world narrowed to the scope's crosshairs. The ceramic vest plate under Rin's shirt was exactly where he had said it would be, over his heart. Designed to stop a bullet without causing real damage, but the shot had to be perfect. Too high, and she caught his throat. Too low, and she hit his stomach. Either way, he died. Her hands were steady. The tremors were gone completely. Subject Zero was back. She aimed for the center of the plate. The spot calibrated for maximum visual impact, the blood pack would explode. He would fall dramatically with minimum actual damage. The room seemed to hold its breath. She pulled the trigger. The sound was catastrophic in the enclosed space. Rin's chest exploded in crimson as the blood pack ruptured. He staggered, his hand flying to the wound, his eyes wide with shock that was half real, half performance. He crashed into a table. Champagne glasses shattered around him, screaming panic, a stampede toward exits. She was already moving, breaking down the rifle with practiced efficiency. 15 seconds before security found her position. 10 seconds to plant the evidence. 5 seconds to a hand closed around her ankle. She looked down into the face of one of Vane's men. Expression savage with triumph. More men materialized from the shadows. Professionals who had anticipated her location, waited for the shot, and boxed her in perfectly. Don't move. The lead guard pressed his weapon to her spine. You're coming with us. She let the rifle clatter to the catwalk. Raised her hands, played the captured shooter, shocked, defeated. Inside, Subject Zero was already calculating. Already observing, already preparing for what came next. They cuffed her wrists in heavy steel, yanked her upright. Dragged her down service stairs away from the chaos. A van waited in the alley below, engine already running. They threw her inside, slammed the doors, sealed her in darkness with 4 armed men. The plan was working. She was being delivered exactly where she needed to be. To Vane's bunker, to the antidote, to the end game. Through the van's small window, she caught one last glimpse of the opera house. Emergency vehicles arriving. Someone, Lawton, probably trying to manage the chaos, and Rin's body being loaded into an ambulance and covered with a sheet. She had just shot the only person who had looked at her like a human being in 3 years. The only person who had promised to come for her. And now she was on her own, heading into the monster's territory, betting everything on a promise made by a man who might be dead despite the vest. The van pulled into traffic. She closed her eyes and breathed, forcing her heart rate down, clearing her mind. If he was dead, she would kill Vane and Lawton, and burn both their operations to nothing before they put her down. If he was alive, they would do it together. Either way, by dawn, the monsters would be bleeding. The bunker smelled of ozone and concrete and old fear. Vane had her chained to a chair in the center of his operating room, the same room where he had dosed her for 3 years, where he had turned her body into a prison. The irony was not lost on her. You killed him. Vane said, circling her like something that feeds. The great Rin Cho, dead because of you, because of your stupid little attempt at freedom. She kept her face blank. The chains were solid, but not unbreakable. She had already tested them, catalogued their weaknesses. She just needed time, silent treatment. That's fine. Vane laughed, the sound echoing off concrete walls. You'll talk eventually. You always do when the withdrawal starts. He held up a vial of clear liquid. Her old poison, the neurosuppressant that had kept her manageable. Recognize this. I'm going to put you right back where you were. Dependent, desperate, useful. And this time I'll make sure you never get loose again. The needle caught the fluorescent light as he approached. Her pulse kicked, but she forced herself still. Not yet. Wait. He was 3 feet away. 2 feet. The needle poised above her arm. The lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the bunker hole. Emergency lighting kicked in. Everything bathed in red. Vane spun, gun appearing in his hand with practiced speed, searching the shadows. What the? A red laser dot appeared on his chest. Hello, Dominic. Rin's voice echoed through the bunker, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Miss me? Vane's face drained of color. You're dead. I watched her shoot you. You watched theater. You saw exactly what I wanted you to see. The greatest demonstration of Subject Zero's skill. What you didn't see was the vest, the blood pack, the ambulance full of my people. Instead of paramedics, the voice was closer now, moving through the shadows, the resurrection of a very angry tiger. Light exploded from multiple directions. Flashbangs, the world went white and loud, and completely disorienting. She had already turned away, already closed her eyes. When her vision cleared, Rin stood in the doorway dressed in tactical gear, very much alive, radiating lethal intent. No, Vane gasped. No, this can't be. Oh, it's very real. Rin raised his weapon, a sleek black pistol that looked like an extension of his hand. And now you're going to pay for every single moment you kept her chained, every pill you forced down her throat, every nightmare you gave her. Vane scrambled backward, his gun swinging between Rin and her. You can't kill me. You need the full antidote formula. Only I know where it's kept. Wrong. Her voice was steady. Cold, the voice of Subject Zero. I physically inserted a drive into your air-gapped server when your guards dragged me in here. It's uploading to 12 separate secure locations right now. You're obsolete, Dominic. Vane's face collapsed into fury. He swung his gun toward her. She had already moved. She dislocated her thumb with a sickening pop, compressed her hand just enough to pull it free of the steel cuff. The thumb would be reset later. Right now, she needed to be free. She caught his wrist as he fired, redirecting the shot into the ceiling. Concrete dust rained down. She twisted, using his momentum against her, and dropped him to the floor. The gun skittered away across the concrete. Rin could have ended it, could have put 3 rounds into Vane right then. Instead, he lowered his weapon and stepped back. Giving her the moment she had earned. You made me a ghost, she said, kneeling on his chest, her hands finding his throat. You took 3 years of my life, poisoned me, used me, thought I would stay broken forever. Vane clawed at her hands, gasping. Please, did my team plead? Her grip tightened. Did they beg Lawton to spare them when his people killed them on that tarmac? Did they get mercy? I'll give you anything. I don't want anything from you anymore. She leaned close, let him see his own ending in her eyes. I just want you gone. She snapped his neck with a single efficient twist. Sharp, final, Vane's body went still. She stood. Her hands were steady, her breathing controlled. She had pictured this moment for 3 years. Had imagined triumph, satisfaction, closure. Instead, she felt tired, empty, like she had cauterized a wound. The scar would remain, but the bleeding was done. Zara. Rin's voice was soft. He crossed to her, his hands settling on her shoulders. I'm fine. She met his eyes. Is Lawton. My people moved on him at the same moment as this. He resisted. A dark smile made it easy. He looked at her hands, then back at her face, checking for injuries with quiet efficiency. Though I have to say, the thumb dislocation was dramatic. Did you have to? Yes. She popped her thumb back into joint with a hiss. And I'll do it again if you doubt me. Never. He pulled her into him with a fierceness that stole her breath, both arms wrapping around her, his face pressed into her hair. I'd never doubt you. You're the most terrifying person I have ever met. And you just stood there and watched while she strangled someone. I watched my partner get justice. His voice was muffled. There's a difference. She sagged against him. The adrenaline was leaving behind something hollowed out and shaking. We did it. We actually did it. We did. He pulled back enough to see her face. Though I have to be honest, watching you shoot me was somehow more terrifying than any of the actually life-threatening parts. I told you I wouldn't miss. You didn't. It still felt like it shattered my sternum. Breathing is technically optional at the moment. He touched his chest with a wince. Worth it though, the look on Vane's face when I walked through that door was worth everything. Despite everything, she laughed. Shaky, almost hysterical, but real. We're insane. This whole plan was completely insane. Completely. He cupped her face, thumbs wiping tears she hadn't known were falling. But it worked, and now you're free. Actually, truly free. No more poison, no more chains, no more monsters in the dark. What happens now? Now? His smile went soft in a way she was still learning to trust. Now we burn this place to the ground and go home. Home. The word settled over her like a promise. She had a home now, a partner, a future that wasn't dictated by survival and revenge. Together, she asked, always together. He kissed her forehead, her temple, the corner of her mouth. Not urgent, reverent, like she was something precious he had fought very hard to keep. My dangerous, beautiful ghost, let's go home. They wired the bunker together, methodically, planting charges that would erase every trace of Vane's operation. The antidote formula was safe, backed up in multiple locations. The evidence of Lawton and Vane's partnership was already being transmitted to every major news outlet. By morning, their empires would be exposed, their legacies destroyed. She stood beside Rin as they watched the bunker burn from a safe distance. Fire painted the night sky orange and gold. Smoke rose in thick columns, carrying the last remnants of her imprisonment into the atmosphere. I should feel something more, she said. Triumph, closure, something. You will, eventually. He took her hand. Their fingers intertwined. Right now you're just surviving. That's enough. Is it? It's more than enough. It's everything. He turned to her, his expression serious. I meant what I said earlier at the opera house before you shot me. Her heart kicked about being a dead man, about loving you. The words were simple. Direct, no grand gesture, no poetry, just truth. I love you, Zara. He held her gaze. The ghost, the operative, all the names you wear and all the ones you've shed. I love the woman who shot me to save me, who survived 3 years of hell and came out still fighting, who's loyal to her bones and dangerous to her core. You barely know me. I know enough, and what I don't know yet, I'll spend however long you let me learning, if you want that, if you want me. Did she? She searched inside herself for the answer, found it waiting, obvious, terrifying. I don't know how to be in a relationship, she admitted. I don't know how to be anything other than a weapon. Then we'll figure it out together. 2 weapons learning to be people. 2 ghosts choosing to become real. He stepped closer, his free hand cupping her face. But only if you want it. I'm not going to trap you, Zara. You're free now, completely free. You can walk away and I'll help you disappear. Set you up anywhere in the world. Give you the life you should have had years ago. He paused. And if you don't want to disappear, stay. Be my partner, my equal. Help me take what my father built and turn it into something better than revenge and violence. Or don't. Forge your own path. Entirely. I'll support you either way. Whatever you choose, I'm not letting go unless you tell me to. She looked at the fire, looked at the night sky, looked at the man offering her freedom and partnership, and something that felt dangerously like home. I'm done running, she said. Relief flooded his expression. Yeah. She rose on her toes and closed the distance between them. I want to stay. I want to figure this out. I want to see what we become when we're not fighting for survival. He kissed her then, deep and thorough and full of promise. The fire blazed at their backs, erasing the past. The future stretched ahead, unwritten, unclaimed, and entirely theirs to shape. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he smiled against her lips. "Welcome home, little bird." And for the first time in 6 years, she believed she had found one. 3 months later, the penthouse looked different in daylight, warmer, more lived in. Books scattered across the coffee table, hers mixed with his. Coffee cups abandoned mid-morning. Evidence of 2 lives intertwining, slowly learning the rhythm of coexisting. She stood on the balcony watching fog roll in off the Pacific. Her body was hers again. The antidote had purged the last trace of Vane's poison. The tremors were gone. Her vision was sharp. Subject Zero was fully operational. But Subject Zero wasn't who she was anymore. Or maybe she was, but she was also just Zara now. Partner, survivor, woman learning how to exist without a constant threat assessment running in the background. "You're thinking too loud." His voice came from behind her. "I can hear your brain from the kitchen." She turned to find him holding 2 cups of coffee, his hair still damp from the shower. 3 months of living together had given her his routines: morning run, shower, coffee, then work. "Just processing," she said, accepting a cup. "It's been 3 months, 97 days since the opera house, 97 days since we burned it all down. Having regrets?" "No, just adjusting." It was true. The physical wounds had healed fast. The psychological ones were taking longer. She still woke, sometimes expecting to find herself back in Vane's penthouse. Still reached for weapons that weren't there. Still cataloged exits in every room she entered. But she was learning to sleep through the night without nightmares. Learning to accept touch without bracing. Learning that not every kindness hid cruelty underneath. Lawton's empire is officially dissolved, Rin said, scrolling through his phone. The feds seized everything. His allies are scrambling to distance themselves. His name is synonymous with corruption now. Good. And Vane's organization has scattered. His lieutenants are either dead or in custody. His shipments are intercepted. His network is in pieces. He set his phone aside, gave her his full attention. "The monsters are really gone, Zara. They can't hurt you anymore." She wanted to believe him, was learning to believe him, but hypervigilance was a hard habit to break. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small flat box from his pocket. "Not a ring box, I want to be clear. Not yet. I know you're not there yet." She accepted it carefully. Inside was a passport, her photo, a new name, Zara Cho. "It's not a proposal," he said quickly. "It's options. A legitimate identity, clean background, no flags, no warrants. You can travel, live normally, be whoever you want to be." She stared at the name. "Zara Cho, foreign and intimate at the same time. You gave me your name. I gave you freedom. The name is just paperwork." His hand found hers. "But if you want to use it, if you want to officially be my partner in all the legal ways that matter, it's there. No pressure, no expectations, just options. And if I want to use my own name, then I'll have a different one made. Whatever you want, that's the entire point. You get to choose now. Choice, the luxury she had been denied for so long. The freedom to decide her own path. I'm not a good person," she said quietly. "I've killed people. A lot of people. I'll probably kill more if it's necessary. I know I've killed more." He turned her to face him fully. "We're not good people, little bird. We're survivors who have done what we had to do, but we can choose to be better than what we were. Choose to build something that actually means something instead of just tearing things down." "Like what?" "Like taking the empire I just inherited and turning it into something actually useful. My father built it on blood and on alliances with men like Lawton. We're going to build it on something different, protection instead of exploitation, justice instead of revenge." His expression was serious and hopeful at the same time. "I need a partner for that. Someone as ruthless as me, but with a moral compass that actually points somewhere. Someone who understands that violence is sometimes necessary, but should never be the first option. Someone who can shoot with precision, but chooses not to unless there's no other way. You're describing a fantasy. I'm describing you." He cupped her face. "You survived 3 years under Vane. Without becoming him, you kept your humanity while being turned into a weapon. You are exactly who I need. But more than that, he paused, you are exactly who I want. Even knowing I'm broken, you're not broken. You're sharp? There's a difference. He kissed her forehead, her nose, the corner of her mouth. Soft touches she was still learning to accept without tensing. And even if you were broken, I would love you anyway. Because broken things can still be beautiful, can still be fierce, can still be exactly what the world needs. Her throat tightened. I don't know how to do this. How to be in something like this. How to trust someone not to hurt me. Good thing I'm patient and stubborn and not going anywhere. He pulled her close, his arms solid and warm around her. We'll figure it out together. One day at a time, one choice at a time, no pressure, no expectations, just us learning how to exist without constantly preparing for war. I still prepare for war, so do I. But maybe we can prepare together. And maybe between all the preparing, we can actually have some peace. The word still felt strange, almost impossible, but standing here wrapped in his arms, watching the fog move across a city that no longer held her nightmares, maybe it wasn't impossible after all. Okay, she whispered, okay. I'll stay, I'll be your partner. I'll help you build something better. She pulled back enough to see his face, and I'll use the name. Zara Cho, it feels right. His smile was incandescent. Yeah. She kissed him, pouring 3 months of gratitude and trust and something that was slowly becoming love into the gesture. He matched her completely, his hands in her braids, his body warm and solid against hers. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, she felt something shift inside her chest, not healing exactly. She would carry the scars forever, but acceptance. Acknowledgement that she had survived, that she was more than what had been done to her, that she had a future worth protecting. I love you, she said. The words felt new, strange, true. I don't even know exactly when it happened. Somewhere between you buying me and you holding me through withdrawal. Somewhere between you letting me shoot you and you walking into hell to come for me. I love you, Rin, I know. His expression was tender, devastating. I've known since you drugged my whiskey and then couldn't bring yourself to actually harm me. Since you took that impossible shot on the bridge. Since you ended Vane and then fell apart in my arms afterward. I've known, little bird. I was just waiting for you to see it too. Arrogant, confident. He kissed her again, deeper this time, with intent that made her pulse jump. And I'll spend the rest of our lives proving I deserve it, proving you made the right choice staying. He pulled her flush against him, by being exactly who I am. By never lying to you, by giving you space when you need it and being there when you don't. By letting you be the dangerous, complicated, extraordinary woman you are without trying to smooth down your edges. He held her gaze, and by loving you exactly as you are, subject 0 and 0, and every name and identity in between. Her defenses, already worn down by 3 months of genuine care, finally gave way completely. She let herself be held, let herself be loved, let herself believe that maybe she could have this, could have him, could have a future that was hers to shape. Okay, she said again, let's do this. Let's build something together. Together, he echoed. They stood on the balcony as the fog swallowed the city whole. 2 ghosts choosing to become real. 2 weapons deciding to build instead of destroy. 2 survivors who had found each other in the ruins and decided to stay. The past was ash, the future was theirs, and Zara, the ghost, the operative, now Zara Cho, finally understood what freedom felt like. It felt like coming home.